o'clock. All right, good evening, everyone. I've got 6 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and call to order our regular session of July 25th, 2017. And first item on the agenda this evening is the opening prayer and the pledges of allegiance to the flags of the United States and the state of Texas, and Mayor Pro Tem Edwards will lead us in those. If you'll join me in standing.
First, I want to say it's a great day to be alive, and it's a great day to be an American citizen. If you wouldn't mind, bow your heads. Almighty Father, whose ways are higher than ours, whose path is greater than our own, and whose love never fails, let us always be aware of your presence and be obedient to your will. Keep us true to self and to our best judgment, always guarding against dishonesty and in our daily walk and its life's journey. Let us choose to stand against wrong as we pray for our enemies, as we count our blessings, as we complete our daily vows to you, our families in this community. Give us strength today to forego doubts as we steadily strive to be faithful to the duties before us tonight in this meeting. Guide us with constant reminders of why we serve this community. In your name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one, indivisible.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Next item we have on the agenda this evening, we have, very good, we have city events and announcements. And first we have announcements of upcoming city events. Very good. Mrs. Gonzalez.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So this week on Thursday, July 27th, there is a ribbon cutting at Judy's Loft Salon, and that is at 2600 on FM 1518 at 4:30 p.m. On Friday, July 28th, is the council budget retreat from 8:30 a.m. to 4 o'clock p.m. over at the Fairfield Inn and Suites, 5808 Corridor Loop Road. The city secretary's office has asked that we make the announcement about the filing is going on for Schertz City Council election. It began on Monday, July 24th. We're going to be holding our general election on November 7th for the purpose of electing council members in place 3, 4, and 5 for a 3-year term for November 17 to November 2020. And it began on July 24th and ends August 21st. And the candidate packet is available in the city secretary's office, or it can be found online. If you have any questions, contact the city secretary's office at 619-1030. And then we have a couple of save the date items. We have our community proposed budget meetings coming up. There's 3 of them. The first one will be on August 10th at 6:30. That will be at the Schertz United Methodist Church. The second will be on Wednesday, the 16th of August, and that will be at Corbett Middle School. And the third will be at Thursday, August 17th at the North Community Center. And finally, we have the Schertz Area Senior Center is holding its fifth annual fundraising event, the Casino Night, on Friday, August 18th from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. at the Schertz Civic Center. Tickets cost $40 pre-sale at the Senior Center or at the Chamber office, or $50 at the door. And you can call 619-1970 for more information.
Mr. Edwards.
Can I interject one thing on that? I put a challenge out on Facebook to all of our council members, and I noticed that we all met that challenge, at least from what I was told. But since this is a Schertz area senior center, I'm going to challenge all of our surrounding city council members to at least donate $250 to this cause. I think that's it's a worthy cause. It's a small amount to pay, and all of our citizens in Cibolo, Selma, everybody's enjoying the place, so why not? Let's make it a big event. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. All right. Next on the agenda this evening, we have announcements and recognitions by the city manager, but we're going to go directly into employee recognition, and I'm going to turn over the microphone to Mr. Kessel. Mr. Kessel.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. It's a great day in Schertz because we're honoring one of our longtime employees tonight. And as you can see in your agenda, we're honoring Sandy Bryant for 25 years of service to the city. And Sandy is joined tonight by her husband, John. She also has her daughter, Teresa, and her other daughter, Erin, with her. And I'm not certain if John Jr. is going to be able to make it or not, but she has grandkids, which is fantastic. So she's got a number of grandkids with her, Gabby, Taylor, Keely. I'm not certain again on Britt or Taylor if they're going to be here tonight as well. So Sandy, would you mind coming down here so we can recognize you?
All right.
So this presentation is quite special, and it's not only because of 25 years of service, which is extremely special, but it's also because Sandy is our first employee to have started, since we started these presentations, to be in front of the City Council twice. And she received her 20-year pin 5 years ago and is now receiving her 25-year pin. For those that don't know, Sandy is working in the Parks Department, and it's actually her second career here at the city, and then it's her third career if you count the Air Force career, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. She began working as a library clerk part-time in 1991 in the children's section, and then she moved to circulation clerk in 1992. She served for 12 years total in the library, before becoming the administrative assistant for the Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Department in 2003. Sandy is currently the senior administrative assistant for Parks, and in that role, she's responsible for preparing and maintaining budgets, reports, documents of all kinds, correspondence records for the parks and pools. She's also responsible for the different pavilion rentals, and she's pointed out to us that the kids that she used to read stories to are now renting pavilions from her for their kids. And that's one of the highlights of her job, is to re-engage with those families. She also serves as the secretary for our Parks Advisory Board. Andy was born and raised in Vinity, Arkansas. I had to ask because when I Googled Vinity, I didn't get much. And her family still has land, has property there. We tried to get a little bit more information. We heard a lot about pine trees, a lot about beavers, a lot about rattlesnakes, and so it's a really pretty part of the country. And she's got family who's still in that area, and actually I think your sister may be building a house there as well. So after high school, Sandy attended Arkansas State University. She left the university to join the United States Air Force in 1969, where she served in data automation. After completion of basic training at Lackland here in Texas, and then tech school at Shepherd, also here in Texas, she was stationed in Charleston, South Carolina. She left Charleston to serve a tour at Misawa Air Force Base, or Air Base, in Japan, where her daughter Teresa was born. Teresa's back there. She returned to Omaha, Nebraska after that, where she was assigned to the Global Weather Center for 6 or more years. She then was assigned here locally at Randolph Air Force Base, where she met and married her husband John, and where their daughter Erin was born. And then they were later assigned to Camp New Amsterdam in the Netherlands, where their son John Jr. was born. And Sandy refers to her children as the international family, what with Japan and Netherlands and Texas. Those are the three countries. And Sandy went on to serve a tour in Germany as well before returning to Brooke Air Force Base. And she retired after serving more than 20 years with the Air Force. So Sandy's played an instrumental part of the Parks Department as new parks have been brought on board, and also with our recent Movies and Music in the Parks series. Her ideas and participation with these events have really taken them to the next level. Sandy enjoys her job and told us that citizens are the most important part of her job, and how she interacts and takes care of them is something that she is most proud of doing. This sentiment can be echoed by her director, Chuck Van Zant, who had this to say about Sandy. Thank you for calling Parks and Recreation Community Services. This is Sandy. How may I help you? In a nutshell, and anyone who's ever called the Parks Department has heard those exact words. In a nutshell, Chuck says, the question at the end of the phrase epitomizes Sandy and what she is all about. She is kind, considerate, thoughtful, and friendly. She doesn't really know a stranger, and strangers will feel like they've known her all their lives once they speak or meet with her. She is dedicated to her job, but is more than that. She is a dedicated city employee who exemplifies our 4 core values. So congratulations, Sandy, and thank you for your 25 years of service.
I know why they turned that around. I don't want to turn my back to the audience. I made notes because I didn't want to forget to thank anybody, and then other people showed up that I really need to thank as well. But thank you for allowing me to have the opportunity to serve the citizens of Schertz. Thank my family. Okay, here I go. Who've always supported me. From reading books and playing Santa at the children's story time, they volunteered at the ticket booth and the beer booth at Jubilee and Schertz Fest. My granddaughter even volunteered at the doggy dash. Took a lot of baths from those dogs getting a drink. And they've also walked with me in the Willincheck Walk, Keeley, go Keeley. And I wanted to thank the parks crew for working in 100-degree temperatures to make me look good, because now I can brag about what great parks the city of Schertz has. I wanted to thank the Schertz area senior centers, personnel who've been such a big supporters of me, and I appreciate how hard they've worked. They turned a 2-day program with about 30 members into a 5-day program with over 500 members. If you haven't been to the Schertz Senior Center, stop in. It's a fun place to be. And I wanted to thank Sherry, who's not here, but her husband can pass it on, for always having the right contact or phone number. Whenever I call 311, I know I can get an answer. And I wanted to thank Donna, who saved me on this laserfish. And when I need a deed or a contract, she knows where to look. And I just want to say, Schertz really is the greatest place to live, work, and play.
And so, Sandy, we'll officially give you your pen now.
Okay, thank you.
Do you want a picture of your family?
So while y'all are getting seated again, I think you heard Mr. Kessel as he went through the timeline talk about Sandy's time working in the children's part of the library, and that was up through 2001, 2002 era. And just want you to know, Sandy, my oldest began his adventures into reading right at that time, right there, 2000, 2001. And that's some of the very first interaction that I had with the city of Schertz was in our library and in the children's portion of the library. Now he's a sophomore at Texas Tech. I think the appropriate, well, you got to be careful though with the whole Texas Tech thing and saying guns up in a no guns facility. But thank you for that, and from my family in particular, because you were there as he began that adventure to begin to read. So thank you. Great stuff. And congratulations again, 25 years. All right. Next time we have up this evening is a presentation. We have a presentation and update regarding the fire department and our fire service. And I've got Mr. Waite and Chief Covington on the list. Or is it going to be Chief? Just Chief.
Good evening.
Good evening, Chief.
Thank you for your time. I'd like to thank you for allowing me to take a few minutes to address you tonight. Up front, I would like to say at no point did I consult with nor collude with the Russians in preparing this report, so you can be safe here. I wanted to make sure I didn't leave anything out, so I wrote it, and I apologize, but I'll be reading this to you tonight.
Da, comrade, da.
Yeah. I've been with the city of Schertz for 10 years after spending 31 years with the San Antonio Fire Department. A lot has changed in the fire service in those 41 years. In 1976, I was a downtown firefighter at Fire Station Number 1, right behind the Alamo. It'd be safe to say we fought a lot of fires, and we fought a lot of big fires. Most of the old guys back then did not wear self-contained breathing apparatus, or SCBAs as we call them today, and I only did when it was really a smoky fire, just so they wouldn't laugh at me. Our bunker gear was considered more to keep the water off of us than for much heat protection. In fact, in the summer, we took the heat protecting liners out because they were just too hot. There was even a period of time when I just wore a long coat with station pants and hip boots because it just felt better. Certainly not a good idea by today's standards. I was a paramedic for a few years at a busy station, answering an assortment of calls. I've treated assault victims while the bad guy who did the assaulting still standing right over me while I'm treating the patient. We went into shootings in bars and homes before the cops arrived. That was pretty stupid. I've worked on murders in the back of my ambulance, and I had a murderer as a partner. I've been the incident commander at fires where people died and other fires where we made heroic saves. I felt incredible satisfaction for those times that all went well, and humbling remorse for the times that we failed. Both in San Antonio and in Schertz, I've been more than just a firefighter, being involved in research and education, from fire behavior and structures to fighting aircraft fire to downed firefighter searches and to roadway safety. I say all these things not to brag, but to try to establish that I've been active in many aspects of the fire service for a very long time, and I've seen an evolution in our profession and in the incidents we face. While I am confident in the abilities of our firefighters, I am concerned with what lies ahead for their safety. 40 years ago, if you had a smoke detector in your home, you had 17 minutes to get out if it caught fire. Today, you have 3 minutes. We now have fire education campaigns to emphasize the importance of sleeping with our doors closed and keeping all doors closed while you're away to limit the spread of fire. There's a reason for that. Houses burn faster today. In an older home, what we call legacy homes, legacy construction, in the type of fire that I fought many years ago, we had more than 30 minutes before the temperatures in the room reached 1,000 degrees. Today, in new construction, and that really includes everything built in the last 20 years, the room temperature in a fire will be over 1,000 degrees in 5 minutes. For a reference, human skin is toast, literally, at about 160 degrees. So that old smoky fire that I went into 40 years ago was nothing compared to the unpredictably hot fire that these young firefighters enter today. Homes today are larger, much larger, than the houses that I grew up in. Lots are smaller, so our houses are closer together. In 1973, an average house was 1,600 square feet. In 2008, it was 2,500. Typical lot sizes were 10,000, and now they average around 8,800. We as homeowners demanded huge open spaces in our living areas, and we even called them great rooms. And we packed them with soft couches and modular furniture that contains a decreasing amount of wood and an increasing amount of plastics and foam. These plastics literally melt and burn with the heat release rates of flammable liquids when on fire. Our engineers have found new ways to expand that open living area by using trusses and manufactured assemblies that now replace almost every floor system that in the past was almost solid wood. And these floor and ceiling systems have large void spaces where fire can travel in all directions. Confining a fire to the room of origin is becoming increasingly more difficult. At the same time, we know that the actual number of structure fires has declined. In fact, fires have decreased by 53% since 1970. And yet the number of firefighters killed in these fires has increased. In 1970, there were 1.8 firefighter deaths per 100,000 structure fires. In 2000, there were 3 firefighter deaths per 100,000. These figures are for firefighter traumatic deaths attributed to structural fire. Our personal protective equipment has become high-tech to protect us, and it's very expensive. A single set will cost in excess of $3,000 and generally has a lifespan of 5 to 10 years with a maximum life by regulation of 10 years. Nonetheless, the most serious hazard to our firefighters these days may not be in that heat energy released or the structure collapsing around them. It may be what is in the smoke at these fires, with the plastics and resins and chemicals in the processed woods and furnishings these days. That smoke contains incredible amounts of carcinogens. It is being absorbed through the skin, at times transferred in the fire station from work gear to non-work fire gear. A firefighter today is 68% more likely to be diagnosed with cancer than someone not in the fire service. So our firefighters today face faster moving fires in buildings made with no residual structural integrity, containing furnishings with incredible fuel loads and carcinogens. This is what the firefighters face today. To counteract all this, we must arrive on the scene of a fire faster, with the right amount of manpower and resources, and with the proper protection. Every minute now truly counts. Our firefighters must be protected with the most up-to-date firefighting gear, and they must continually train in the new methods and techniques that evolve with the changing structural issues. We must use the science of fire flow and the study of heat travel in our fire attack. There is a solution, The greatest strategy to reduce fire damage and loss of life due to fire in homes is to install residential fire sprinklers in every home, everywhere. Sadly, our culture does not demand it, and therefore it won't happen easily. There is another fear I have for our firefighters and all for first responders. Our roadways are not growing at a rate to keep up with the increased traffic volume. Congested roadways increase the likelihood of an accident. Responding to these accidents place our first responders at great risk. About every 5 days, an emergency worker is killed on the highway working the scene of a crash or some other incident. About twice as many law enforcement than fire personnel are killed on the highways each year. But we are all at great risk while assisting others. I am proud that in Schertz we have coordinated an approach among fire, EMS, and police. We work well together. Not all jurisdictions are so lucky. We block the scene with our big red fire trucks, making our work area safer and making the area safer for the occupants involved in the crash while they are being attended to. Nonetheless, history has shown that distracted and impaired drivers can and will find a way through our safeties. There is no end in sight. TxDOT has a campaign you may have heard of. It's called In the Street Texas, or it goes by the hashtag In the Street Tex. It calls attention to the fact that at least one person has died each and every day on Texas roads since November 7th, 2000. We're going on 17 years of a fatality a day, at least. And for every fatality, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of non-fatal accidents, and each one requires our fire, our police, and our EMS to be on the highway at risk. When I came to Schertz in 2007, I found an energetic group of firefighters, a quality EMS program, and a top-notch law enforcement agency. Today, these are all understatements. We're much better. Our city was top-notch too. Al Baldwin was the mayor, and he was a great friend of our firefighters and of me personally. Hal was Schertz, and Schertz was Hal, it seemed. When he left us way too early, I must say, we felt the loss of a friend, and I wondered if we could recover. This young man, well, everyone's young to me, who I knew then as a council person, took over, and we became better, much better. Mayor Carpenter has led us through some hard times and many good times, and he has made the city of Schertz a model community. Johnny Bierswall would leave, and with him went incredible capital in the form of intrinsic knowledge and experience. My old nemesis from our EMS fire wars, Dudley Waite, took over, and we thought there would be a fall off in our city's abilities. Instead, we became better through his leadership and his dedication to the city. Don Taylor hired me, and he was my friend. Another young man took his place, and we didn't always see eye to eye back then. John Kessel not only took the ball and ran with it, he routinely made those around him better by pushing them at times, and other times staying smartly in the shadows to allow them to grow. I've had the opportunity to work with a number of city managers and a couple of other mayors. Mayors Henry Cisneros, Nelson Wolf, city managers like Alex Persino, Terry Brechtel, and Cheryl Scully. I can easily say that I've never worked with or for another city manager as good at his job as John Kessel. When I got to Schertz Fire Rescue, I made it our value statement to do the right thing, do it better than anyone else, and do it safely. Do the right thing. It was our value in fire long before it was the city's. Sorry, I'm just saying. Obviously, John Kessel feels as I do. He understands that work gets done through our people, and work gets done through our people, and they are our greatest asset. I am confident the city has good leadership in place for the exciting future that lies ahead. In the fire service, it's been said that progress excuse me. In the fire service, it's been said that progress is made one retirement at a time. I leave you in good hands as soon-to-be Fire Chief Cade Long takes over. He's a good one. He will take the fire department to an even higher level. Seeing how much he cares for his firefighters, as I have cared for them. Thank you.
Those of you who don't know, Chief has just decided to retire here recently, and in his last week or so before Chief Cade takes over. So, Chief, once again, thank you for all your service on behalf of the entire community, all of the staff, my family, and the City Council. It's pretty remarkable to have you have a 25-year pin, and then you have a 41-year veteran of the fire service retiring, and it's we're very blessed. We're very blessed here in this city with the people that work for us. It is remarkable, and has been for a very long time. All right, next up on the agenda, we have a presentation and update regarding the City of Schertz website. Mr. Klauser.
Okay, so we're here to provide comedy relief today for yeah, it's a tough act to follow, folks, so thank you very much. And I've known David a long time, since before when I started out as a consultant here at the city, and I've always had great respect for him, so very, very much sorry to see him go, but Cade's a good man. We'll have a lot of fun with him, too. All right. Tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about the website. As you know, one of the things that showed up in the citizen survey was some concern about modernizing the website and bringing it up into a little more responsive format for our citizens. You'd be pleased to know that we've been working on this project now for a little more than a year. We signed a contract last September with Civic Plus to move the website to a new platform that would allow us more flexibility in terms of design, update, maintenance, security, all those other good things that we like to have. So we're going to go tonight a little bit quickly through the site itself. We'll talk a little bit about that. But right now what I want to do is just give you a straightforward idea of how we started out with this thing. The project was really intended for us to provide a site that was attractive visually and intuitive, that being much easier to navigate, and a little bit very easily to be searchable and easy to update and maintain. All of these came from feedback that we've been collecting over the last couple of years on how our current site's operating, so it helped drive the decision-making that we move forward with the new site. So the current site, basically, we started out in 2010. We actually won an award that year for second place for our site. It was actually recognized by Tamio statewide. We were actually pretty proud of that. But we really didn't do much in terms of updating it, except just getting some of the content updated at that point. So what we tried to do with the new site was to try and provide a better, more flexible platform that would provide a different view or a more complete view of what the city of Schertz is all about. Our current site is very much a straightforward organization-driven site. Our goal was to provide a more functional structure. That is, how do I do things or how do I interact with the city? That was our driving force in redoing and redesigning the site and coming up with a new direction for it. So our web platform team, project team, consisting of Linda, Melissa Giedman, Natalie Schultz from the library, Natalie stand up, and Tony McFalls. This is a team that we put together of some very talented people who, and Ray, yes, don't forget, yes, Ray, stand up, Ray. He's standing, you just don't know it. So we put together a team of very talented people who want to put a lot of time and effort into getting us where we want to go. To date, we calculate we've got about 100 man-hours involved in getting us to the point where we can now turn the site over to the new hosting service to be able to parse and take our site and move it into the new system. So that's the next step. So far what we've done, we've gone through the layout and color preparation, and I'll show you some pictures here in a minute of what the new site looks like. We've got the design approved. Management's had a chance to review it. Their answer was, yeah, what took you so long? But the next thing's coming up is, obviously, we've got to do some work on content, and that will be something we'll be working on over a period of time. The next thing is that we'll be doing content. We're turning it over to the developer at the end of this month. They're going to scrape the site, take the new structure that we've built, and then they're going to turn that into a new website, and we should see that somewhere around the end of September is our goal. But what I want to do quickly is show you some of the design features that we've come up with. Okay, so yeah, this will give you an idea of what the site itself looks like in terms of how the front page would lay out and how some of the information will be. As you can see, it's a very different approach than our current site. It's really designed around the citizen being able to get to information quickly and as rapidly as possible. So as we scroll down, you'll see different types of information that's appropriate. Some of it will be static and some of it will be very dynamic. It will change out as time goes on. But the goal, again, was to provide a very functional and easy to navigate site so that our citizens can find information and move forward. So go ahead.
Oh, sorry, just to touch on that design. It's kind of zoomed in and it's got a lot of stuff that's on the front page. When you actually load the page, what you'll see is that top picture, if you'll scroll up, Miles. Yeah, what you'll end up seeing is about this area right here. So when you actually land on the page, most monitors are going to have it set to this size, and so we call this above the fold here, if you will. And then below the fold, you'd have to scroll to get to the rest of that. So these 5 buttons at the bottom, those are quick links. So those are areas where a lot of folks are going to want to gravitate towards those areas. We want them to be right there on that home page, easy access, one click to get where you need to go. And one of the goals of this was to be 2 clicks or less to get folks where they need to go. So that's why it's more functionally driven versus structurally. Folks may not know that, if there's a ditch that needs to be mowed in their area, is that parks or is that public works? They don't really have a concern about which department addresses it. They just want it addressed. And so it's having that mowing page where you're going to look at a mowing page to see what the schedules are, who you need to contact, versus going to parks and seeing, okay, are they the mowers, or going to public works, are they the mowers? So they're not having to kind of find the way we structure ourselves, more just, I need this taken care of, how can I do that? And so we're kind of addressing that with changing up some of the pages. So.
Thank you. So one of the things I want to emphasize is that because this has been a very complex rework of it, what you're going to see here, let me show you, this is some of the structure involved that we had to go through to provide some better detail, but gives you an idea of the way the layout will work. For example, we went to a four-link home page that focuses on things like just government, and that would be all things regarding government. Everything from city council agendas and minutes to boards and commissions, things like that. Services is going to cover a lot of ground because we provide a lot of services. But it's not here's the Parks Department. It's I need someone to come mow the grass. Community is going to be focused around the community events that we do, Schertz Jubilee and Schertz Q, quality of life type stuff.
Library, things like that.
Right, and business development, of course, is going to focus on our economic development business. And we'll do things like focus on, we'll have a single page for permits, so they can go to one place to go find out about permits. We, as you may or may not know, we put a permits application page up on the existing site, so people can actually go and download the permits and fill them out and turn them in. The new planning and inspection software, of course, when we get that online, we'll have a link directly from here, so people can apply for permits directly. But the object is to have it all in one place, so that instead of having to find and dig through different places to get the information or to do the interaction, it's all in one area that seems to just make sense. And that was the goal. As I said, the schedule is that we're going to have we'll do some focus groups in September. We'll do some work with the administration side, and then we will release the site at the end of September is the current plan, assuming everything goes the way it's supposed to. But we're very optimistic that we'll make that deadline. Any questions?
Very good. Council, question, Mr. Edwards?
I just have one question. Will you give us a side-by-side comparison of what we have now versus what we're getting? Is that
Yeah, actually, we can do that. Let's see. Thank you, Ray. So what you'll see here, this is the sample layout of the existing site here.
Which will be responsive, just like
Yeah.
if you dragged it down, the website will work that way too. So as you make it smaller, it adjusts itself.
Yeah, and it also meets things like ADA compliance and a lot of things that our current site doesn't do. So that makes life a little bit simpler for us too. There we go. Schertz, and here is the City of Schertz website. So you can see kind of the difference here between the two. There we go. That'll give you a little bit of an idea of what the difference between the two sites will be. Very different direction, but very modern, very flexible. That's the nice thing about the design work that we're working with this vendor, is that we have a lot of flexibility over time to update the design and make it more modern and keep it that way without doing a lot of extra work.
seems like it's less convoluted.
It is, very much so.
Good job. Thank you.
And that image is not a static image. I mean, it is on the site, but if you refresh it, a new image will pop up. And so I think there's 5 or 6 rotating images. So any one person could land on it 5 different times, and you get 5 different looks on that background image.
Very cool. All different images of Schertz. Very cool.
This is Crossvine.
I figured that was Crossvine. It looked like it. Council, any other questions? No? No?
Miles,
Sir.
while you're up there, it's Brian. Do you want to touch on the status of the projector, just since council's probably wondering there, and since you're up there?
Okay. Yes, okay. Yes, we're finally down to the point we've got the bids in from the different vendors to replace the projector. It's been a very laborious process trying to ensure we get the right technology in here that's bright enough, modern enough, and something that we can be proud of and frankly we can afford. These projectors are not cheap. We've got the last two bids in from the vendors. We looked at the paperwork today, and we're going to probably make a decision on which one to do in the next couple of days. And then in a couple of weeks, we should have the new one up and running.
All right. Well, if there's no questions from council, then we look forward to the launch. Is there going to be a period of time where we have a working site, if you will, before we actually go live?
Yeah, we'll have a test site that we can review and work the kinks out. Like I said, we'll bring in some, like we did with some of our other projects, bring in a focus group and have them provide us some feedback before we actually turn it on, just to make sure we've hit the mark.
Cool. Don't want to speak for the whole council, but I'm betting that we'd all like to have access to the test site so we can, bang on it, hit it from the side. See what
we're not going to let you do that.
That would be smart not to let us do that.
Not the first time out. You can provide comments and updates after we go live, sir. We'd be more than welcome. We'll welcome them at that time.
Got it. I have the message. Perfect. Listen, we look forward to its launch, and that looks great. Great work. Very good. All right. The next item that we have on the agenda this evening, we have the hearing of residents. We have one person that signed up this evening, Mike Gump. So, Mr. Gump, please. Evening.
Good evening, Council. Those of you that I know and those of you I don't, I see 4 familiar faces up here. Went to church with him, and these 2 from the center, and you from Darrell John's celebration party.
Indeed.
My name is Robert Michael Gumps. My full name, my address is 3442 Northern Heights.
Thank you.
I moved into that house on June the 19th of 1979, and it's been well paid for. Reason I'm here to speak tonight is that on April the 20th, I went out in front of my house early in the morning as the trash pickup was on Wednesday, and I took my loppers, and following Schertz's requirements that you trim your trees to 8 foot above the sidewalk. So I'm doing that, and I stepped on the water meter. It went sideways. My leg went down in the water meter up to my knee, and I fell backwards and threw the loppers back behind me. And when I stood up, I noticed my finger looked funny. I could turn it straight up and turn it straight down. Well, I had an appointment at podiatry that day, so I went in and I showed my doctor, "Hey, doc, look at this." He said, "That's broken." I said, "Well," he said, "you'll have to go down to the emergency room." He said, "But I'm going to save you 4 hours. I'm going to send you to get an x-ray." So he gave a consult. I went and got my x-ray, and I went down there. So the little doctor comes out, and she says, "You're going to have to go to x-ray." I said, "I've already done that." So she looked at the x-ray and came back, and she said, "I can't see anything broken in there." I said, "Look, lady, Ray Charles could see this," and I turned it straight up and straight down. The thing about it was there's no pain in it at all. Now, a week later, or the following day, my neighbor called the city of Schertz, and a lady came out. I've got her name somewhere here. It's on the envelope. I left it in the car. At any rate, she gave me some forms to fill out, but I had an infection that had started on that foot because of that accident. And I wasn't feeling well at all, so I didn't hardly come out of my house to even eat. So the following Wednesday, I had an appointment with my podiatrist, and I went in there, my third toe. The way you tell your third toe, it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Well, it had turned purple and slimy. And he shook his head. He said, "It's got to go." I said, "I figured that." So they cut the toe off. They kept it for 11 days to analyze it, make sure that they got all the infection. Then they said, "Okay, we got all the infection." So they left me there for a while. And then they put me into a nursing home. And at the nursing home, right at the base of where the toe used to be, it turned red. And I said, "That's not good. It looks like they didn't get all the infection." So the healthcare nurse that changed my bandages daily She said, yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on that. The next day, the circle was half again as big and traveling towards my leg. So I packed a bag with my toothbrush, toothpaste, razor, and essentials. I started down the hall, and the guy said, where are you going? I said, I'm going to the hospital. He said, you can't leave here. He said, you're going to have to pay for all those days you've been here at $166 a day. I said, look, Jack, I'm about to lose my foot here. I think it's up to me whether I leave or not. And one of the nurses had heard the conversation. She called the doctor. The doctor said, does he have an infection? She said, yes. He says, is it traveling? She says, yes. And he wants to go to the hospital? She said, yes. He said, then let him go. So I went to the hospital, and they admitted me. And what they did was cut the whole end of my foot off. So then they kept me up there for a while, and then they said, oops, we didn't get it all. We've got to cut more off. And I'm sitting up there, this is a traumatic thing, when they start cutting pieces of you off. And so I have a family full of doctors, and every one of them said get second opinion. So I told my doctor, and he sent a team of 5 doctors, 2 dudes and 3 women. And they all concurred, said, I was wanting to do the antibiotic drip. And they said, well, while we're finding what drip works, that thing's going to be traveling and you're going to be losing more. If we cut it off now, we have a chance to stop it from traveling. So I said, okay, with the Lord's help, and bless their hands, that they went ahead and cut some more of my foot off. Now, I got a couple of photos here. I don't know how to work this contraption.
Below, it'll autofocus.
Over here?
Yes, sir. It'll autofocus right there.
Okay. Now, this is what that foot looks like, or did look like. As you see, there's no toes, and I don't remember if this is after they cut the first part of it off or when they came back and cut the second part of it off. But that's a gruesome-looking thing. On this side, where you see over here, is on the little toe side, which you have less veins and capillaries or whatever over there, and it's always the last to heal. So then they put me out of there into another nursing home, and this is what it looked like when they put me out of there, and said all the stitches are gone and this part is healed and only have this part over here left. So then they put me out. I was in that nursing home for 30 days, and then the VA gave them a 15-day extension. And at the end of that 15-day extension, this is what I had. But they said, you can do this at home with home health care. So I had nurses come out, change my bandages. All during this time, if I'm to take a shower, I have to put bags. I used umbrella bags to put on my leg and tape it down, and other umbrella bag to put on top of it. Now, I got a form. I called Robin and asked him what I should do, and he said, well, he's going to have a lady send me out this claim form, which she did. And he said, well, I had a claim form. Originally, the very next day, my neighbor called, and this lady came out, and she gave me the forms. But I wasn't feeling well. That infection was already working on me, so I didn't fill the form out. So then after I got out, well, that's when I said, what should I do? And he had contacted them, and they sent me this form. Now, I missed both of my children's birthdays. I missed my birthday. I missed my grandchildren's Halloween. I missed Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's, all on account of this thing. On this form, it says right here, total amount claimed. What kind of an amount can you claim for all this? I mean, what should I ask for? I have no idea. How do you pay somebody for all those things? And that's my question. Now, also, I'd like to know who the contractor was that we had a substantial cement meter about like this, and in the middle it had a metal door. You could dance on that thing. I bowed over the top of it. It was very well constructed, very well made. And they tore that out. And they tore up the streets, they tore the curb out, and then they put in this flimsy plastic base. It should have been round, but it wasn't on account of when they put the dirt. And then they put a round lid over the top of it. And that's the lid that I stepped on that would not seat, and that's what caused this accident. Now, while I was gone, they tore out that meter, and I don't know who did or why they did. I suspect it had to do with the way it was built, and there may have been other accidents such as mine in regards to these things. Then they put in another meter, and because I can't bend over, your toes, if you don't know it, are your balance. If you don't have any toes, you cannot balance yourself. I'll never be able to dance again, one of my favorite pastimes. I have a dove lease in Schertz on the corner of File Road and I-10. I can't hunt. You shoot a bird, you got to cross a plowed field to get to it. I can't cross a plowed field. I cannot walk on a plowed field. So maybe I can go watch, but it's not the same. My life is never going to be the same. And I want to know who the contractor was that tore that good meter out and why they tore it out. And I want to know who the contractor was that put that flimsy meter in there, that caused this accident. Now, since they have torn the meters out in the whole subdivision, they put in the good concrete ones with the metal flap on the Wedgwood side. I live on the corner of Northern Heights and Wedgwood. I thought, well, why couldn't I get one of those meters? So I went up to the water tower, and there were some Schertz employees working there. And I told them, I said, my neighbor, the guy that's now cutting my yard because I can't, I asked him, I said, is that a metal lid on that meter or a plastic? And he picked it up and he dropped it and it splashed. There was water in the water meter. And I said, oh, that's not good. So he took it out and put it on as best as he could. And now they came along 2 weeks later and tore out all those substantial cement ones and put just the kind that I have there. So I told the guy, look, I got water in this meter. And they came out there and you can see where they pumped the mud out onto the yard. And he said, oh, it's on your side. I said, well, I didn't have a leak until y'all tore that meter out. And then you put this one in and now it's leaking. What's the deal with that? But at any rate, the bottom line is, what do you think I should ask for a deal like this? I just have no idea. And I'm depending on y'all's wisdom and experience and, to make a decision what it should be. And that's about all I have to say, and I thank you for your courteous attention. I apologize for coming in shorts, but I figured y'all would all know about the weather out there. And it was nice to hear all the people that spoke tonight. They were elegant and had a lot to say. And this is the first meeting I've ever been to, and I've enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Mr. Gump, I don't having not known the details of what's going on, can't offer any advice. However, for several of the questions that you had, I'd probably refer you to Mr. Waite here, and he may be able to join you right now in the conference room back there and see if some of the questions that you have about why was this changed and when did this happen, maybe he can provide some information there. I don't have it off the top of my head, but he either does or
you did, but
or
Cedric
he can
advised
certainly
me
get it started.
to come and speak and put it on record, and then they could look into it.
Absolutely.
Which was good advice.
Absolutely, Mr.
And it's it's nice knowing the ones that I know. I should know the rest of them. They all seem like good individuals. Okay.
Sorry that happened, and Mr. Waite certainly can visit with you here for a few minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Next on the agenda this evening, we have a couple of workshops. The first one is an update and discussion on the July 4 Jubilee and Schertz Q events. So, Ms. Spence, Ms. Klepper, good evening.
Good evening. Okay, so close up. Okay, good evening, Council, Mayor. We've got a couple of updates for you tonight, and then later on the agenda, we have the request for the budget adjustment for the Schertz Q event that's coming up on September 16th. But just to recap, from our visit with you guys back in February. This year, when we had the opportunity to take over these events, Jubilee and Schertz Fest, or Schertz Q, formerly Schertz Fest, we decided that we were going to focus on why we're doing these things and what's important. So the key elements from Jubilee that we had identified early on were the fireworks, the parade, and the carnival, and then for Schertz Q, the barbecue competition. Of course, we want to provide community events that our residents can enjoy from all ages, from all walks of life, for all interests, and so we try to provide something different and unique at the various events. And then, of course, we wanted to make sure that we were fiscally responsible in balancing revenues and expenses and making sure that we were able to cover our costs and offset those and break even, which we were able to do successfully with the Jubilee event. So just to recap the 4th of July Jubilee, it was the one-day event. In years past, it was a day and a half, and this year we did the one day, which was great. Survey results show, we did a survey on social media, so the folks who liked the event on social media, they were notified about this. This is also on the website. Showed that folks rated it about a 4.0 out of 5. I would say probably closer to 3.7, 3.8. And then we were able to get great feedback on the various elements of the event, so we know where the satisfaction was and then where there's maybe some need for improvement. And we also gathered with staff and got some good feedback from them as well. So the Freedom 5K race is what started off the day, and then we followed that with the parade. This year we had a record number of entries, about 108, with over 400 participants in total, an estimated of 2,500 to 3,000 people along the parade route. Mary's husband was in the parade and was able to GoPro the entire parade route, so that's pretty cool. We got to actually see the parade route. When we're working the parade from the front end, we usually just see the staging area. We don't get to actually see the route, so that was kind of neat. Of course, we had opening ceremonies, the live music, the carnival. We had some food and craft and business vendors, the watermelon eating contest and Bonzo Crunch, and then our fireworks, which were sponsored by HEB, again this year, and estimated over 5,000 people in the park. And then I know that there are various areas around the city where folks tend to set up their own fireworks watching parties, and so quite a few folks enjoyed that show. So we're working with staff to evaluate the survey results that are coming in. So we surveyed parade participants, we surveyed vendors, and then we surveyed the general public, and then staff as well, to kind of get good feedback on what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, what we need to work on, and things we might want to add for next year. So the bottom line, the overview of the event, our total revenues were at about $27,000 for the event, and our total expenses were closer to about $24,000. So we were not only able to offset the cost for the event, but we were able to make a small profit. And then another goal that we had was trying to reduce the man hours that were needed for the event, allowing staff to enjoy that holiday that most folks do. And so we were able, from 2016 to 2017, we were able to drop the number of exempt employees from 23 to 13. And the hours worked 208 to 113, almost cut that number in half. And then the non-exempt employees from 99 to 64, going from 725 hours to 413. So overall, from 933 hours to 526, we reduced staff by 45 employees and 407 total hours, saving approximately $10,000 on non-exempt time. We don't track the exempt time, so we just did the non-exempt there based on the average wage of $33, $35 an hour, considering it's a holiday, and some of it may have been overtime. So, but overall, Jubilee was a great success. We do have some things and some notes that we want to work on for next year to make it that much better and more enjoyable for our residents. But we are pleased that we were able to meet those goals of reducing staff time and balancing our budget and providing a quality event for the residents. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mary, and she's going to go over the Schertz Q event a little bit.
All right, good evening. So with Jubilee, we planned a one-day event. We want to do the same thing as we go forward with our Schertz Q, the formerly Schertz Fest event. The biggest part of this event will take place on that Saturday, and typically has. So the Friday evening, it doesn't afford us to really get a lot of return back. It's better on our side to save that manpower and that time that we have and put our efforts into the Saturday instead. So our proposal for the one-day event is to continue with the sanctioned barbecue cook-off, to add a show and shine car show. We have done it a couple of times in years past and have lost it a little bit. We want to bring that one back. We want to bring, instead of our regular food vendors, we want to bring in food trucks and only trucks into the event, but we want to make sure that a requirement for that truck to be part of the event is that they have a barbecue-related item on their truck and are able to offer it to the general public. We'll do our business in our retail marketplace, again, a little bit different from what we do with Jubilee, having some retailers out there that are more barbecue-related and some other type of different shopping that you might be able to get as well, too. Some live music during the afternoon before we do our barbecue awards, and then we want to add that new element of the kids' queue. We have a gentleman that's part of the IBCA, the sanctioning group for the barbecue cook-off, that will host the kids to be able to be a part of the cook-off just like the other teams are. They get a chance to cook, they get a chance to be judged, and get their food tasted as well, too. So a couple of new elements, bringing one back, brand new one going in there, but it should make for a wonderful day for our residents and guests to come in there. You'll notice on the graphic the new logo for the event, so transitioning from Schertz Fest into the Schertz Q. And we're going to be grilling in the burbs. Schertz Q, we'll see expenses roughly about $30,000. We anticipate revenues to be about $35,000. The biggest expense to us is going to be that barbecue competition and that $10,000 purse that we offer, which entices teams to come out and compete in the cook-off here. Revenues we anticipate will match or exceed those expenses. The barbecue competitors, we're anticipating about 85 teams. 2009, when the cook-off started, there were 16 teams competing, so it's grown considerably. The retail business and food trucks, approximately 46 vendors. All of those will be pay up front, pay for the space, and then they're able to sell their wares, and then they keep all those profits themselves. We have been able to secure a sponsor for the barbecue cook-off for that purse that we have. Walker Partners has come again to sponsor that cook-off, and so that's a $10,000 sponsorship that we will receive to help offset those costs as well, too. We're actively working on some other sponsorships as well that we can help to offset those expenses. Okay? And that's Schertz Q, what we propose to you to have on September 16th.
Very good, thank you. And by the way, congratulations on the Jubilee. I know it's quite a transition moving from the Schertz Parks and Rec Foundation, and I thought it came off very, very well. To have a record number of participants in the parade, too, I think is indicative of the good work that you guys did. But let me open it up to council. Mr. Thompson?
Again, I will echo the kudos for the Jubilee, everything associated. It's very, very good. Thousands upon thousands of Schertz residents participated, which you cannot put a price tag on the quality of life which this and our other events will offer. I did some rough math. I'm not trying to say it's correct, but if you take the profit and then take the salaries, hours at roughly $33 an hour, we show about a $15,000 loss. Now, that is a substantial improvement. I'm not knocking y'all. That's a substantial improvement from prior. So I very much commend you for that. But knowing that is the goal for future events, I'm going to say 2018 events, to show a profit when that includes the salary for non-exempt employees, or to show a profit not counting non-exempt?
I would say that our goal is always to try to offset our costs, but in providing these quality of life events, there is a cost associated to that, and that just very may well be some staff time that needs to be dedicated to this. We're trying to provide a community event for our residents, and so some staff time may not be able to be offset.
And I have no problem with that, because again, quality of life how much price tag you put on the fun and the celebration and the joy that you saw in people's faces, but might just maybe clarify the expectation. Is the expectation for a profit before salary expenses or after? That way we're all on the same page.
Understood. And also one other thing that is important to note is that the foundation did apply for the HOP funds for their events that they had put on. So that was $40,000 that they received that we're not using to put on these events.
Again, a substantial improvement,
Right,
for which
yes.
we thank you.
Good. Mr. Edwards?
I enjoyed the events tremendously. I want to ask one question. Could you go back on the slide? You had one slide in, the very first slide. No, keep going forward. It was talking about the profit, right here. It says prior to the staff expense. How much was the staff expense? Is that the number you're talking about, Robin?
Yeah, that's going to be. Not claiming to be a mathematician.
So we have 27,171 was the total revenues. We had total expenses of 23,651.22. We have an event profit of $3,520.03. That's prior to the staff expense. And what was the staff expense?
The staff expense was 17,542.
So that's the number you're doing.
That's the 526 hours at the 3335.
Okay, that's what I need to do.
That's about the 15,000 number.
Okay, real close. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Just one question.
Mr. Gutierrez?
Any idea what the time frame is going to be for the Schertz queue?
We will have a Friday, Saturday for the event. So Friday is our move-in day. All of the barbecue teams begin to come in and get set up into place. For the general public, it will only be on Saturday. And then we will start probably about 10 o'clock in the morning. Mm-hmm. And then we will have the live music starting about noon, with the kids' queue happening around the 4 o'clock hour. And then we'll go into the barbecue awards, which typically begin about 6:30. When the barbecue awards are done, the event will be done as well.
Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Edwards?
And since we have now a baseline that we're looking at, is it possible that we can look at a pro forma going forward, what we're thinking that we could actually gain? So we can kind of budget this even further out, 5 years or something of that nature. And we also need to put in inclement weather days too.
And so with the Schertz queue coming up, it's certainly a concern because we've had quite a few of those that we've gotten a little bit wet. We do have a very good plan in place because of the several years ago when we did have that nice storm that came through. We have that plan B where we will lose some of the elements, but we won't necessarily lose the entire competition, so we can keep the biggest part of that still active. Even if it is pretty wet in the park, we have quite a bit of asphalt we can take advantage of, and because we've done it once, we know that we're able to keep that event still going. So really it's going to be a rain or shine.
All right. Anyone else? Thank you. It's very well done. I like the changes, and again, having these events for the community come together. To Mr. Thompson's point, it's going to cost us a few dollars, but the fact that it's down to roughly $15,000 of cost, that's great work. Very well done. Thank you. Very good. All right. The next item they have on the agenda this evening is a workshop, and this is an opportunity for us to review, discussion, and possible action regarding amendments to the city charter. There were some questions about some sections and how they applied and whether or not a section contradicted another, and I think Mr. Davis brought up a couple of good questions. I think Mr. Thompson had a question or two. So at this point, what I'd like to do is let the two gentlemen that had expressed some interest in having this conversation kick us off. So I'll start with Mr. Davis, and anything you'd like to start us off with? Not this time, Mr. Thompson?
I'll echo Mr. Davis.
Okay. I did take some time, however, since this was on the agenda, to look at a couple of items on the charter. And I didn't see that we had any particular challenges. But after I'd had a chance to look at the charter, I had a chance to visit with our city attorney, Mr. Zach, and just ask some questions about, home rule charters generally. And one of the things that he said is that the charter is voted on by the people, and they put that in place, and it's really up to the council at that point, based on the verbiage that's approved. If there is need for interpretation, to interpret those elements of the charter, and if there's no interpretation to be done, but changes to be made, then that gets submitted back to the voters. So I don't have anything right this minute either that I think that we need to change, but there may be times as we move forward where we're going to have to do some work on clarification. And again, the advice that I got from Mr. Zeck was that is one of the functions of the city council. So anyone else? Mr. Thompson?
Just one thought, with as much as the state legislature is trying to change things and take away things from home rule cities, do we have the need after each legislature session to have our attorney re-review the chamber in light of all the new legislation that has passed?
Yeah, not only will we need to have ongoing discussions about our charter after the legislature finishes whatever number of sessions they end up doing this time, but we will schedule some time with our city attorneys to walk us through the pertinent changes that affect us directly and the ones that have major effect. I mean, that's the norm certainly after we finish up with a legislative session. Obviously, this session, I don't want to get too far off the workshop about the charter, but there are a number of things that are being proposed that could limit what we can do as a home rule city, which might necessitate changes to the charter. So it probably is timely for us to wait until the legislature finishes their dastardly work and then take things up afterward. Mr. Edwards?
So correct me if I'm wrong. We can always call for a charter review commission whenever we need to. We can put that in place.
We can absolutely call for a charter review commission. We just can't make changes within 2 years of changes being voted on by the people. So we do have that 2-year delay before we can make any other changes. So anyone else? All right. Well, if not, then I do think it's wise to wait until the legislature finishes their work, and then we'll take it up after that and see what new things they have in store for us. All right, next thing we have on the agenda this evening, consent agenda. Item number 1, the minutes, the approval of the minutes of the regular council meeting of July 11, 2017. Item number 2, excused council absences, approval of the absence of Mayor Pro Tem Edwards from the meeting of July 11, 2017. Item number 3, ordinance 17S23, an ordinance by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, amending the official zoning map by rezoning approximately 12 acres of land from apartment multifamily residential R4 to Planned Development District or PDD. And I believe that is final reading. Item number 4, ordinance 17T26, an ordinance by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing a budget amendment to fund additional contract inspection services, to provide funding for the Schertz Housing Authority, to provide funding for a stone monument sign, and for EMS community support services, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance and providing an effective date. Also on final reading. Gentlemen, anything that needs to be pulled and considered individually? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve
So
the item of
moved.
consent? I have a motion from Mr. Thompson.
Second.
That was identical, but I'm heard Mr. Davis because I've got less hearing loss in my right ear. So second from Mr. Davis. Any other comments or questions from council? Not, I'll call for a vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. 6 ayes and no nays, the motion carries. Next item that we have this evening is we have item number 5, ordinance 17T24, an ordinance by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing a budget amendment to fund the Schertz Q event, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance and providing an effective date. Ms. Klepper, good evening.
Yes, so in conjunction with our presentation a few minutes ago, we're just asking for the approval of ordinance 17T24 for the budget amendment to fund the Schertz Q event.
Very good. Any questions for Mrs. Klepper? Not, is there a motion to approve ordinance
So
17T24?
moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion for Mr. Edwards, a second for Mr. Thompson. Any other comments or questions from council? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. 6 ayes, no nays, the motion carries. The next item we have on the agenda this evening is a roll call vote confirmation. Mr. Schmeckel?
Consent items 1, 2, 3, and 4. Motion was made by Councilmember Thompson, seconded by Councilmember Davis. Mayor Pro Tem Edwards voted yes. Councilmembers Davis, Gutierrez, Larson, Thompson, and Crawford voted yes. Motion passed. Item number 5, ordinance number 17T24, first reading. Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Edwards, seconded by Councilmember Thompson. Mayor Pro Tem Edwards voted yes. Councilmembers Davis, Gutierrez, Larson, Thompson, and Crawford voted yes. Motion passed.
Thank you, ma'am. Next item that we have on the agenda this evening, we have a closed session. The City Council will meet in closed session under Section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code, personnel matters, to deliberate the appointment of a municipal judge. Mr. Waite and Mr. Gump may still be meeting in the conference room, so we're going to take a 5-minute recess, and at 7:25, 7:26, thereabouts, we will convene in closed session. Yes, sir. All right, I show 7:59. We're back in open session at this time. Item number 6A, take any action based on discussions held in closed session. Under agenda item 6, we don't have any this evening, so there's no need for a roll call vote confirmation. Item number 7, announcements by the city manager. Anything further, Mr. Kessel? Nothing this evening. Very good. Item number 8, the placing of items on a future agenda. Gentlemen, anything that we need to have on a future agenda that we don't have currently? Seeing none, we'll move to item number 9, announcements by the mayor and council members, and we'll start by Mayor Pro Tem Edwards.
It is good to be back, and I just wanted to say one thing about the police department and what they did for me. Also, Roadrunner Towing, guys. I ended up having a blowout on 35, going about 60, 70 miles an hour a couple of weeks ago, the day before I left for Hawaii, and I tell you what, there were several vehicles that pulled over, from dispatch to Officer O'Leary to Roadrunner Towing. Man, everyone was top notch, came out. Do not ever get out on 35 and try to change your tire, please. I'm begging you guys. I was as far over as you could get off of the emergency lane on the right side in the grass, and people were still running over what I call the braille strips there, and it was extremely dangerous. You cannot have your back to the highway. Take my advice, simply dial dispatch and say, guys, I couldn't do it. For the love of God, please call someone. Don't try to change that tire. $125 to change a tire for a wrecker to come out and help you, or a tow truck, that is worth it. So just want to say thank you to Officer O'Leary and Roadrunner Towing as well, and also dispatch. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Crawford? Mr. Davis? Mr. Gutierrez?
Nothing.
Mr. Larson? Mr. Thompson?
Sir. I want to say kudos to public relations for another thing. The new billboard on I-35 for the city of Schertz. It is a great billboard. The design is wonderful. It's eye-catching, and the creativeness, I just think, is worth commendations.
All right. And I guess I don't have anything else. Mr. Santini, thank you for joining us. When you go back, tell Mr. Zeck we were out of here before 8 o'clock, or right at 8 o'clock, and sorry that he's here on nights when we go long. Clearly, we're just being courteous. Any other comments or questions or things from council or staff? If not, we stand adjourned.
Thank you, Sandy.
I think I'm good.